So how do we take the measure? How do we take the measure of ourselves? I think the truth is we do it in different ways. When I was very young, which is many years ago, our family had just moved into one of these big old houses. It needed some repairs, but it was very large. And my mother was so happy. She said, finally, we have enough room. She wasn't just speaking about our immediate family. We had 4 kids in our family. But she particularly was speaking about her family, her sister, who had 11 children. And they came every Sunday. Finally, there was enough room. She seemed so pleased. I remember also when my father bought our station wagon. This is so many years ago. The station wagon actually had real wood on the side. And he was so proud. How do we take the measure of ourselves? Maybe in some of the things that we're able to acquire along the way. Maybe in the money that we make. Maybe in a position or a promotion or a title or an office. Just recently I was talking to a young man, and he is part of the group from Walgreens that is going into the old post office, which they have just renovated. And he's all excited because he got a tour of his office. He said, you wouldn't believe how big it is, and it's a corner office. He was so proud of his new office, a corner office, his promotion. How do we take stock of ourselves? The measure of ourselves. We do it in different ways, all of us. And even the measure of one another, as we compare ourselves to each other. In the gospel today, we're told that 2 men went up to the temple to pray. But the parable is not about praying. It's all about how they took measure of themselves. The one was a Pharisee, the religious person, the practitioner. And we're told that he stood apart as he began to pray to himself. And he was thanking God that he was not like the rest of people, as he compared himself to the rest of people. The way he took stock of himself, the measure that he had of himself, he was much better. He not only followed the laws, he fasted, he paid tithes on all of his income, and he was not like this tax collector over there. The tax collector, on the other hand, was over there. Actually, he was off by himself in the back, with his head bowed and beating his breast. And his only words were, Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner. 2 different ways of people measuring themselves. And Jesus says that it actually was the tax collector who went off justified, and the other did not. To be justified, to be in right relationship with God and with each other. He was praying for mercy, God's love in his heart. And it's that love that makes everything justified. Last year I was doing a mission out at Prince of Peace Parish, out in Round Lake. And like here, they have a large vestibule. I walked in the church the night the mission was going to start, and people were gathering there, and have a large set of doors as the entranceway, and then another large set of doors into the church. And the door in the back opened, and this family came in, and there was a young boy, I would guess no more than 4, maybe 5. And as the door opened, he let out a scream, "Grandpa!" and just raced toward this elderly gentleman. And the grandpa reached out and grabbed him and held him and then raised him, and the young boy was full of laughter. When there's love in our hearts and in our relationships, it's a joyful moment. And more, 2 weeks ago I was with a family, the Fitzgeralds, and Tricia Fitzgerald has fought the good battle of cancer. She tried every regime that the doctors gave her. She was hanging in there, giving it her all. And then the doctors said there was no more they could do for her, and she was in rapid decline. And I watched Donald, her husband, so attentive as they were moving her into a chair. He was there helping, making sure that she was comfortable. As they were preparing her food, he was preparing her table in front of her. When the food came, he was tenderly helping to feed her. Love is in our heart. It's not only joyful at times, it's full of tenderness and compassion and mercy. The tax collector, this sinner, was asking the Lord to fill his heart with mercy, a love that brings joy, a love that is tender and compassionate, and most of all, a love that puts us right with God and with one another. And when it happens in our heart, whether we're a grandfather or a grandmother, whether it's in critical situations, we know it brings justice, right relationships with one another and with God. And the Pharisee, who was accounting all that he had done, sadly was not in right relationship with God, thinking that he justified himself. And we all know what happens when we think that we justify ourselves in our relationships with one another and even with God. It doesn't work. It's not right. Because in the end, love with one another and with our God is a gift. It's a gift. A blessing, certainly, but a gift. We don't make it happen. We don't force it to happen. We don't justify ourselves. The truth is, the measure of each one of us is how much we are able to love one another and our God. And that's a gift. It's only with God's grace. Only in knowing His love for us that we're able to love one another as God loves each of us, and love the God who has loved us first. Lord, have mercy on us, sinners.